Turkey's operation threatens to further strain relations between Ankara and Damascus and Ankara and Washington. Now let's bring in Aykan Erdemir. He's a former member of the Turkish Parliament. Welcome, Aykan.
Thank you.
You are at the center of Turkey's legislative process. Tell us the Turkish rationale. Why would they launch this offensive now inside Syria?
The pretext of the Turkish offensive was the announcement by Washington that it was training a border force called the Syrian Border Force. And although Ankara reacted very forcefully to the US announcement, the military operation did not take place against that enclave, meaning the Kurdish enclave to the east of the Euphrates River. Surprisingly, it came to Afrin, where there are no US forces, where there is no training by the US, and where there are only Russian troops on the ground. So probably we have to look for another reason behind this attack, meaning it's not about the Syrian border force, but it's more about the fact that Turkey sees the YPG, the Kurdish forces in Syria, as the one and the same with the PKK, the Kurdish insurgents within Turkey. So from the Turkish President Erdogan's point of view, this is an anti-terror organization. This is an attempt to control the northern Syrian enclave of Afrin, where the YPG forces are present. And it seems the initial pretext, Washington's announcement, was just a kind of a triggering factor, but it wasn't the real rationale.
But, you know, that could complicate the situation because Syria, after all, is an independent country. It has its own sovereignty and territory. How do you think this would complicate Syria's conflict? And also, how would that impact relations between Damascus and Ankara?
Now, the initial reaction from the region emphasized the territorial integrity of Syria. We have seen a condemnation from Tehran. We have seen a very strong language from Damascus. In fact, President Assad even threatened to down Turkish jets. You know, Russia was kind of more ambivalent in its language. But overall, I think we are seeing some double talk because although you know, neither Iran nor Russia nor kind of Damascus are happy about Turkish incursion into Syria, at the same time, they might see this as kind of a tactical win because this is a multi-dimensional chess game. What's happening here is probably a behind-the-scenes bargaining between Ankara and Moscow because Russia pulled its forces from near the Turkish border, gave Turkey the green light to carry out both airstrikes and also a ground incursion. And possibly this was in exchange for Turkey allowing Russia and Assad forces to have a new assault in the Idlib province. So this could be an exchange, basically Russia and Assad allowing Erdogan to control some of Afrin in exchange for Erdogan pulling its support from the rebels in Idlib and gradually handing Idlib province over back to the Damascus.
We know the Kurdish people was and still is a minority in Turkey, and you said this attack is Erdogan using a pretext to really target a group it considers a Kurdish terrorist group. Why would President Erdogan go all out, go all the way to get rid of this group? Can you explain to our international viewers who might not be so familiar with domestic politics in Turkey?
Sure. When we take a look at Ankara's rationale, PKK happens to be Turkey's #1 existential threat, the Kurdish insurgent group. And since the Turkish government sees the Syrian Kurds, namely the YPG forces, as one and the same with the PKK, from Ankara's point of view, there is no distinction between Syrian Kurdish group and the Kurdish insurgents in Turkey. Furthermore, you know, beyond the security concern, there is also an ulterior motive, and that is Turkey is running to triple elections in 2019, local, national, and general elections, local, national, and presidential elections. And the presidential election is life or death for President Erdogan. And throughout Turkish electoral history, conflict abroad has been the most profitable. It's great for elections. And possibly President Erdogan is seeing this military operation as really a winning formula to guarantee his re-election in November 2019. So there seems to be a lot of interplay between both security, diplomacy, and kind of domestic kind of personal gain in this Afrin conflict.
Aykan, thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you with us.